Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions I've drawn from studying American history, conclusions you might not agree with, you might even be offended by. But the important thing for me is that you come to your own conclusions. I'm going to begin with still in George H.W. Bush's administration. So I'm going to start again in 1992. President Bush managed to get the UN to authorize him to use military force in Somalia in a humanitarian effort to impose order on a country that had devolved into anarchy. American troops landed on the beach with news reporters and lights already there waiting on them. The American troops were part of a UN peacekeeping force that included, among others, the French Foreign Legion. President Bush saw the supposed end of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, the USSR abandoned many of its former ideas about world conquest, and many democratically inspired governments began to spring up in Eastern Europe, with Gorbachev stating that they must be allowed to run their course. He therefore abandoned former allies, particularly the ruthless puppet dictators of the Soviet Union that ran some of these. Communist governments in Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Bulgaria, and Yugoslavia gave up their monopolies on power and held popular elections with surprisingly little violence. In Romania, though, there was widespread bloodshed until the dictator of that country, Nicolae Ceausescu, was toppled and killed. Communists did win election victories in Yugoslavia, but the country began to split into warring fragments, with Serbia considered to be the oppressor, butchering and starving its rivals. In November of 1989, travel restrictions eased between East and West Germany, and thousands of East Berliners crossed the Berlin Wall. On December 23rd, 1989, the Brandenburg Gate separating East and West Berlin was opened, and thousands of citizens began tearing down the Berlin Wall that had kept the gate closed. This was broadcast around the world. I'm going to post a BBC News story in retrospect from recent times about the fall of the Berlin Wall and reunification of Germany. So Germany went about making plans for reunification. You had East and West Germany. On October 3rd, 1990, the East and West were reunited. Agreements were made to reduce American troop levels in Western Europe, calling the agreement the Charter of Paris for a New Europe. President Bush announced, quote, the Cold War is over, which is kind of a little bit too soon, just like his son saying mission accomplished when he landed on that carrier. In 1991, the Warsaw Pact of communist nations that had stood defiantly against the West for decades was disbanded. Gorbachev was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He and Bush seemed to have a sort of contest on who could make the most movements toward peace and disarmament. The Soviet Union then collapsed and began to separate into various sovereign states. Bush enacted and signed several agreements regarding international trade, proposing to eliminate tariffs between Canada and the US over the next 10 years. He then signed agreements with Mexico. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, was signed on December 17, 1992, and would have far-reaching impact on the economies of North America. The Uruguay round of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, moved in the direction of a conclusion. The reducing of trade barriers around the world was President Bush's goal. Globalization will be discussed in a special topics class, I hope, and there are many arguments against it and for it. President George Herbert Walker Bush was a strong proponent of globalization. The Bushes are globalists. Even though they're Republican, they're globalists, just like a great many, if not all, of the Democrats are. So let's understand we're not divided between Republicans and Democrats. We're divided between people who want a strong national economy, a strong America, with a strong America being the best thing that's for the world, and those who want to make a lot of money by globalizing and spreading factories in places where there are no unions, no people, nobody protecting workers' rights. It's a mess. But that's my opinion. So we're gonna talk about why wasn't President Bush considered a successful president next time. And I hope you'll be watching me. Thank you very much.